Come on, work, work. Huh. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, hello there. How are you? This is Vorian from Paladin Journal, and welcome back to another special video. And today, sorry, excuse me about that. Today I want to talk to you about something that is, once again, very near and dear to my heart, and that is Star Wars. Now, specifically, what I wanted to talk about was, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. As you all are probably aware, you know, it has had its re-release for the 20th anniversary since the movie was first released in 2005, and it's been certainly a challenging time. Last weekend we had Star Wars Celebration in Japan, which was an amazing thing. I was not able to go, but I saw some of the coverage online, and by online I mean mostly on Instagram and Facebook, and just like it was interesting. I have sort of a complicated history with Star Wars. I started with the re release of the old movies, the original trilogy, back in like 96, 97, whenever that was. And that is what, just turned me on to this amazing universe. Even though back then, as like, like a 9-year old, 10-year old, I had no idea how much Star Wars was going to end up changing my life. And then I got in a little bit with some of the books, starting with Starfighter's Ajumar, which was, I believe, an amazing book. And that is what just really kicked off that journey. And when I got into high school, I read a whole lot more books, and so on and so forth. But Episode 3 was my first ever movie that I actually saw. I had not been able to watch any of the other 5 movies previously, but you know, it was the last day of high school. We all got kicked out uh, by the teachers, and they were just like, just go off, just go scram. And a friend of mine, he was like, yeah, let's go see a movie. I was like, okay. It's like, okay, what's on? Star Wars. Okay, let's go. And I knew like the major story beats, sort of, for the story, and you know if Revenge of the Sith is going to be your first Star Wars movie, you're in for hell of a ride. There are so many things that don't make sense, but just the spectacle of it, that is just amazing. It's something that is, really beyond description. That is how I would put it. That 2 hours or whatever, however long the movie was, that has changed my life quite a bit. Especially for the fact that, I consider Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader to be like, just two of the greatest characters ever put on film. And certainly, when I got into college, got the chance to watch everything, and now I do like, a yearly rewatch of everything at some point. It's like, yeah, things are just like, as I grow older, I find a lot of things are just that much more emotional. They hit that much more deeply. And especially, in recent years with the resurgence of some of the, the prequel era stories, or even just, the continuation of those stories in the form of Ahsoka and everything, that has affected me even more. Like what is it, last year, or maybe last year when Ahsoka came out, and we had that the 2 episode duology, sort of, where Anakin comes back, and this is the redeemed Anakin, or the Anakin that came back to the light side of the Force at the end of Episode 6. That is the version of Hayden Christensen's character performance that we see, and it is just like, I mentioned this in my review of the episodes, but like that spoke very deeply to me, especially for the fact that at the time Hayden Christensen, he got so much hate for his performance, and people are just like they throw about so many like crude words about not only his performance but also about the character, which you when we talk like that, you fail to understand, I believe, you fail to understand what that character was really about. How many times in, just like in film culture and like, the last 70, 80 years, whatever, how many times have we had a main character who is just so utterly damaged? You know, he grows up without a father, he's a slave, his mother is a slave, and he's a child worker, you know, and suddenly he's thrust into this world of politics and hijinks with lightsabers and Jedi and Sith and, just like senators, galactic senators and kings and queens and droids and all that. And, his, like, his immediate father figure, that guy dies. He doesn't see him die, thankfully, but, he dies. And the person appointed to look after him in place of his father figure, Qui-Gon Jinn, now it's Obi-Wan, who, is very much like an elder brother to him. And, it's just the story just progresses, He's emotionally stunted. The Jedi Order does not give him the tools to deal with his emotions. They ask him to repress those emotions, to keep those things, just tamped down. And, he really struggles because he's not like most Padawans who come into the order at a very young age. He's coming at a much later stage in life than them. He already has opinions of the world. He's seen a whole lot more than they ever have. And he's just bursting with all this power and this energy. And, it's like, you have to understand the character. You may disagree with what I'm saying. Of course, that's your prerogative. But you have to understand where Anakin is coming from. And, the biggest thing about him is he is a tragic character. He may turn into the greatest villain of all time, where, he has murdered entire planets, entire peoples. He's committed some really, intense atrocities and everything. But also, he starts off, as this emotionally stunted person who never got to mature properly. The average person grows up and, we have the support of our family, we have friends and everything. But, and we grow up, in the context of our own society, we grow up rather normally. We deal with some tragedies as we grow up, and there are ups and downs plenty, but we always have a support system. And no one is telling you that, you have to not form connections with anybody and all of that. So, I hope you get where I'm going with this. But anyways, beyond all of that, what I really want to talk about is, these conflicting feelings I'm having this weekend. And the part of the reason for that is because, as I said, this weekend saw the re-release of the movie for the 20th anniversary. It's this huge spectacle in North America and, like the UK and I guess some other parts of Europe and everything. And it just frustrates me because, it's that, how to explain it? I want to see the movie in theaters again, but I'm here I'm in India and I cannot do that. That is like the movie is not being released here, and there's all these reports every day of, oh, the movie is cracking to have a huge domestic opening weekend. Oh, look, the movie is having this huge domestic opening weekend. It's making so much money and blah blah, blah and all that. And it's like, it kind of gives you whiplash. It's like a 1-2 punch kind of thingy because it comes right on the heels of Star Wars Celebration Japan. And just as a fan, it is just so different, because I feel so envious of so many friends who are in US, Canada, UK. They're all going to see the movie. They're having fun with their Darth Vader popcorn buckets and just having the time of their lives when suddenly in this one theater in the US in LA itself, Samuel L. Jackson and Hayden Christensen just walk into a showing and they're both carrying their iconic lightsabers, and they're talking to the crowd. And in some other theater, whatever, they're guys just having lightsaber battles and everything. It's just like, you know, it makes you want to be a part of all that, right? And this is something I really, uh, you know, something I feel really bad about, because I want that kind of a connection to Star Wars as well. I can like have a great time just watching all the movies tonight, just back to back, but it's not really the same thing, is it? I remember when Episode 1 Phantom Menace, it got its 15-year anniversary, and it was released in theaters. I believe I saw it in 3D. Yeah, it would have been in 3D. And man, what an amazing experience that was. I'd only seen the movie, on a computer before, and getting to see it in a theater, just like blew my mind, especially in 3D. And I watched that movie so many times. Like it's insane. It's absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. And just because, that movie captures so much perfectly. Like, I get there are some childish elements and everything to it, but I'm someone who's like, yeah, that works for me. You need some kind of a comedic relief. Sure, Jar Jar is great. I think he was a fantastic character who served the the needs of the movie at that time. And you go back and you listen to a lot of the stuff that George Lucas has to say about the original trilogy, about the prequel trilogy and all that, and some of the ideas he had for his own sequel trilogy before Disney bought everything and all that. And just like the passion of not only George Lucas but the entire cast and crew involved, that really comes through in those movies, I feel, more than anything else, because those movies are just such a triumph of technical capabilities. you know the actors have to be on point, the crew has to be on point, all the technical people working on those movies, the cinematographers, the editors, the music, and just the CGI, which is like, like George Lucas had such, like, such a deep vision for wanting to do with Star Wars back in 97 or 77. Was, he created a whole special effects house, a company just for that, ILM. And you look at them right now, and it's like, like 50, almost 50 years later, it's like they are the premier special effects company in the world. Industrial Light and Magic. They have so much history. They worked on some of the greatest movies of all time, like Jurassic Park. You know, and it's like, it's just really amazing stuff, right? But again, a lot of that is also, just about how the actors behave and how they convey their performances. Like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of like some of the biggest reasons why I love Ian McGregor, Samuel L. Jackson, Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, and so many of the other actors on those movies is because of that prequel trilogy, of the the original trilogy. And if they are in a movie or a TV show, I'm always up to watch that. I've watched so much of their stuff in and out of Star Wars, and it's just like, it's always been a great time. So yeah, I'm not really sure like what really I'm going for here, but it's more like, I guess this is sort of a request to Hollywood studios. You know, if you own the rights to a movie like this, like Disney owns the rights to all of Star Wars, and there's a big anniversary coming up, and you re-release the movie, just re-release it everywhere. Do you think we don't have fans all over the world, in South America, and anywhere in Asia and Africa, Japan, Australia? I don't know if Australia is already getting released or not. They might be. There are English speaking country, first and foremost, Australia, New Zealand. But like Star Wars fans are everywhere, and I'm sure like so many of them are just lamenting the fact that the movie did not get released in their country, and you know it's the easiest win you can have with fans, where you really don't have to do much. You just gotta send out these special re-release tapes and whatever to thousands of cinema halls across the world. You already have the you already have all the distribution channels in place, and even if it ends up costing you a few $1 million, it's like, so what? The amount of goodwill that you're going to generate, the amount of hype you're going to generate, and all of that, it's like those things have value. Fans want to be seen, they want to be heard, and it's like, what do you lose? You lose just a few $1 million at best. And instead, the whole world is united behind something like this. Star Wars is like literally one of the biggest franchises in the world. It's been that for 50 years. Ever since that day in 1977 when the first movie is released, and the world goes crazy for it, and it spawns so many more movies, television shows, animated shows, so many toy lines, comics, novels, everything. And like, just like clothes. I'm wearing a Stormtrooper t-shirt. I'm wearing like a Star Wars leggings. I have this toy lightsaber I got from Disney World in Anaheim in 2015. And I have Lego Star Wars keychains. I got Lego Star Wars kits and everything. It's just like I don't really know. It's like I feel like there are opportunities here that the studios are not recognizing. I don't remember at the top of my head right now what it was, but some other major movie got a re-release last year or the year before, and it was the same issue for me. It didn't get released here. There was so much hype online, and people in America and everywhere, UK, Canada, they were all going to see it, and I'm just like basically just twiddling my thumbs, in the midst of all these fantastic discussions that are going on, like watching episode 3 in theaters at release. That thing changed me, changed the course of my life, and it is something that I really wanted to share with my family. I have 2 kids now. My daughter is like 7.5. My younger child, my son, he's almost 3 now, almost 4 now, sorry. And I want to share that experience with them, right? With my wife as well. And, because she only knows Star Wars majorly through the sequel trilogy, and we didn't have a good time with those. But, I really want to share what it was about this movie. Like, even if it's like, it doesn't really matter how it ranks up in the greatest movies of all time. It's about the experience, right? You see stories of people online, who are like, oh yeah, 20 years ago I took uh, my nieces, my nephews, my younger siblings. I took them to the movie, and 20 years later now we're all going together, with our kids and everything. And just those kinds of stories, they're always so uplifting. They always give you a good feel. It's like you want to be a part of that. You want to do that yourself as well, right? And I just miss it. It's like, come on, guys, like just do this nice thing for everybody. It's like you guys can handle it. It's like you make billions a year. It's like, what's a few $1 million to you? It's like, come on, it's like it's the easiest win in the world. Yeah, that's all I got.